Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. Today we have Mardi. We now have Mardi with us, who is an amazing influencer on Instagram and tells us her stories through her younger experiences of trans woman life. It's amazing. So, hi, how are you?
Good, honey. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to have you on. I've been watching you for years and it's just like so cool to have you on.
You're in Chicago, right?
I am.
Yeah, so the land of Alexander Billings and all of those icons and yeah, it's yeah, just you're just so many of you beautiful young trans women that I've met that I've been starting all these parasocial relationships. It's like there was just this vast desert of like, just not connecting with anybody for decades. And now, through the internet and all that and our fancy space machines and stuff, it's like I get to, you know, uh, finally see, the progress that we made. We'll get into all that, but it just warms my heart when beautiful gals like you reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'd love to talk and stuff," because it fills my heart because it's just been a real lonely experience for me, really, until of late, with the internet and the apps actually, really it's like it's not what it was like 10 years ago, even on like, YouTube and stuff. Like it's just you can make so many connections with the trans community that you never could before, right? So I'm really happy to meet you and all the other ones.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I think of it as a blessing. I think it's such a cool opportunity now that we have this like advanced technology to connect with other people and especially our community because it's so funny. I feel like it's so big but so small our community. It's so like weird, you know?
Yeah. But what really got me on, I always talk about this. What really got me going, like on what I started a TikTok account during the pandemic, is because I just started to see all of these young kids that were, because that was the young kid app, and I was seeing all of these young kids that were, being gaslit by their parents and by older people, saying that, there is no. Yeah, it's like this is a new thing. It's like you guys are all just influenced by, all of this. We didn't have like the internet before and all this stuff. So you guys are just being transed from all of this information and stuff. And we have proof because it's like you would see all of these old trans people if it was always a thing. And that's when I said to my husband, hold my Diet Coke. Started an account, and it's like I got to tell you guys some stories why we're not here, why there isn't a plethora of old, trans people like myself, because it was just, we all know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's like, it was just too fucking hard to live back then. It's like, and you had to be perfect fembot for if hide in the binary, and that's what you had to do to even get services back then, was to be that Harry Benjamin standards of care fembot. And say you never went to gay clubs, and that you never thought a woman was attractive, and all that patriarchal nonsense that we've been breaking down over the decades. But it's like but these kids were just so blown away when I started an account, and I blew up right away because they were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that I can live this long." Because it's like, the mortality rate is so horrible for us. But then unfortunately, that Klondike, the gold rush of TikTok, when we could just be free and connect, and everybody was helping each other with their accounts and stuff. Like like they realized that, the powers that be have realized that they needed to control the narrative, and so they've just shadow banned the house down there. So I'm finding that there's more I'm getting more push on Instagram now, but TikTok is like an absolute uh, intellectual desert or history desert when it comes to in real time talking about history. If I talk about, being older trans from the 70s, say the word kid, say all that stuff, they just shut you down right away.
But I mean, I think it so like this is kind of my first question like how was it? I mean, we know a lot from seeing your TikToks and your Instagrams. I'm more of an Instagram girly. I feel like I'm too old for TikTok, but I'm on it. Um um No, I love TikTok, but I'm saying, I see all I listen to all those such inspirational stories. Like, what do you feel like that's something that you I guess my question is like, what is maybe your favorite story that resonates with you the most that you feel like you repeat a lot in your algorithms or on your TikToks about like what makes you you, I guess, like in growing up.
Yeah, growing up, I think the biggest one right now for us as a community too is that I used to be a pick me. And
Okay.
I'm a recovering pick me, and I was just banging when I first came onto social media and showed my face. It was 2017 on YouTube.
Mm.
I started on YouTube, and I started to meet all of these other transsexual women that they were transsexual, and it was like, the umbrella has this transgender umbrella has holes in it, girl, and it's like, they're making us, all the bullshit, they're giving us a bad name and all the non-binary, they were just like poo-poo and all that shit, right? And I was like going, yeah, yeah, because I didn't know any better. I had no idea. And it's like, but it always felt weird that I was agreeing with them. And then as I was talking to my audience, I had like a little YouTube channel, and it's like, some people could see that I was, in my story that I've always wanted to remain teachable. I think that's why I've survived for this long, is that I remain teachable. And they said to me, Marty, that's really, you really have some inner transphobia. And they talked about what non-binary meant, because I actually didn't even understand what it meant or anything. Like it was just, I'd just come out of the fucking woodwork, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, and, so I think that's the main thing for me is that that I was a pick me, and that I like calling out people, in a in a teachable moment, like if they're doing that, and it's very easy to, we all are trying to survive here, but it's not the same world like when I was growing up. Like the crumbs that we were surviving on back then. I know it's still hard today, but we can, there is safe
Right.
places where you can go. There's safe places where you can go and go to school and that stuff. There is places that you can go. There was no places. You could not go to fucking school. If you did, you'd have to be in the, your parents would have to basically be like in the witness protection program and move to a different city. And it's like, and you could never tell anybody. And it's all of that horrible stuff. And even then, sometimes you got caught. I know a girlfriend that got dragged out of a lecture hall in university and was what's it called when they get rid of them in university? They were like expelled. They're expelled, and when the mother called and said what's going on, they said, well, it's like, we didn't know, and it's like we have to protect the children. Like that's how bad it was back, and that was in the mid '80s. Like that was happening. So it's like, we have come really far. So I think that that's 'cause, the main thing that I like to talk about is to juxtapose those different lived experiences from, from where I was to now, and with these eyes, like I really wish people could see the how far we've come, so that we don't lose hope with how they're flooding the end zone with constantly with all of this bullshit that's happening. But it's like all of the stuff that they are throwing at us, and all of these rights that they're trying to take away, especially in your country, because I'm Canadian, right? It's like they flood the end zone with all that stuff. It's like, but um, these were rights and stuff that are these we had never, there was nothing to take away from us before. So that shows how far we've come. So I think that's what I like to drive home as much as possible, and in a comedic manner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel like is your most challenging experience you've had, do you think, in your experience of being a trans woman?
What's been the most challenging? Um, I think it was for me first. One of the at first, the first thing was, the surgeries and what do I want? And it's like, who am I? Like, will I be loved and all that stuff? And that old trans tale about, it's like if I have the bottom surgery, I'll never be loved again.
I think that's definitely, sorry to what you're saying, is like I was like that in the beginning. Like, I mean, I'm 5 years in, still got more to go, but I think in the beginning I was like that. I was like, I need to get my face done. My boobs need to be bigger. I this, but I think I said this in my last podcast episode. I was like, I think you have to really come to terms with like who you are as a woman and really love yourself, and then those things will come. You know?
Yeah, yeah. But what I'm trying to point out at is that, oh yeah, for sure. Like when I first came onto the scene, it was like, this was the 70s, right? And it was like
Oh
they were
yeah.
like, okay, honey, it's like first you got to get your nose done because you got that little bit of a bump there, type of thing. And then you'll be prettier, and then you can get more money, and then you can get your tatas done. And then once you get your tatas, then you can make enough money to get your hoo-ha done, type of thing. And then but it was so crazy.
Yeah.
The surgeries back then and stuff. It was just insane. The first time I saw one was in a club like in 1980, and it's like, and I was on acid, and I saw it. It's one of my viral videos that I talk about, and I call it Franken cunt, right? Because it was just absolutely like, so I put it on the back burner until they got better, type of thing. But in the meantime, it's like I was working as a cisgender girl, like on the streets, type of thing, because that's what you did, because it wasn't a thing to make lots of money as a trans girl, but as a non-op trans girl out there. So and so it was very, very dangerous. And then by the time and then it's like I actually did become an escort in Alberta, where you could actually be licensed, and I did it as a non-op trans girl for the last few years that I was working. And all the money that came with it was insane. So I see today like how many girls like are so torn with their with getting bottom surgery, because for they first they don't think they'll make any more money, type of thing, because that's what they're doing for money, and also that they don't feel like they'll be loved again, type of thing. And I get that, I understood that, but it's like I lasted until I was 35, and then I had the surgery. But I had, just before that, I posed a question to myself. I said, self, I said, if you could never be in a relationship with another human being again, had nothing to do with sex, would you want to stay the way you are? And I instantly said no. So I was saying, well, there's your answer, type of thing. So I wasn't doing it for anybody. I was doing it for me. And I think that's what we all have to come down to, is like doing it for ourselves. Because I think for me, I was holding my first husband. That's why we broke up, because I was scheduling myself to have the surgery finally, because they were finally going to pay for it in British Columbia. And we were out for dinner, and he holds my hand and he goes, Marty, says, don't I get a say in this? You know what I mean? Like I was talking about having an abortion or something, you know what I mean? Or, it was just so ick, right? And so that I knew I had to leave him too. So I think that's where I see a lot of trans girls like really like going crazy with that part of themselves, right? Out there.
Wow, that's an intense story. That must have been like really challenging when a do you really think what do I have to say in this? Like, come on, dude. Like that's crazy. I would be like, see ya. You're out of here. It's my choice, my body.
No, but most of us, we're like, I'll speak for myself. I come from a place where, there was no love and all that stuff too. And being on the stroll since I was 15 and everything, it's like I was so, it was like I didn't even have relationships that, those clients were my relationships, because I didn't even know how to have relationships. It's like, and I was so starving for attention. I could, the types of people, what I let happen to me was just, sick. And I think all women like, go through that and until they know their worth and stuff, right? And luckily for me, I ended up, with a huge addiction problem that almost killed me. In 1991, I got clean and sober and never looked back since. And that's where I did the inner work. And, when I think about, what I used to put up with, to now, it's just, makes my toes curl, really. Yeah.
How was dating for you? Like, was dating kind of easy, challenging? I'm so curious.
Dating for me was what was weird when I was non-op, it's like, and I came into recovery, like it's like I didn't really have any relationships. They were all transactional, like I said, until I entered recovery. Like I just it just was, I had the occasional, fling or something like that, but I never took it too seriously. And it was like, and I ended up always just burning the house down or something very quickly, with all the drama and the drugs and all that shit. But and I was a performance artist, of course, so my whole life was a performance, right? All that crazy shit, like no definition between life and art type of thing, and all that crazy stuff. But then when I came into recovery, it's like I said, my first husband he was basically a chaser. And it's like so a lot of my girlfriends that where it was his client, we were never, he was never my client, right? But he was one of those, always within long-term hetero relationships. But it's like when he found me in recovery, he thought, oh my God, it's like I can take her home to mom and she's in recovery. And it's like, and she's cool. And he was all Mr. Celtic tattoos and the, rock reporter and all that shit type of thing. And God bless you, Edward, up in heaven. He's not with us anymore. And just absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I was just like the ugly duckling going, you want me type of thing. You know what I mean? And so I just like followed him just like a little baby, like to everywhere. Like I was just like, oh my God, he loves all that first love stuff that was just so awkward because I was like 29 when it started happening. And but then yeah, when he was not into me having surgery, luckily I had enough women friends around me that said that's fucked up. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Cisgender girlfriends, right? I didn't have any trans girlfriends then because the whole community there was, it was also sick, right? Like everybody was just so in survival mode that there wasn't, a healthy community couldn't take root, right? It's just starting to really. And so yeah, but relationship for me after I had the surgery, like oh my God, it was like now I was just like dealing with the garden variety bullshit of men type of thing because I was just, another one, another gal with a hoo-ha. It's like because all the chasers didn't want me anymore. No matter what they say, they don't, it's like it'll never work. It's like they'll always go looking for it. It's like, you know what I mean? But it's like I just ended up dating like really just salt of the earth men from like my first husband I met on a Buddhist website because I'm a student of Buddhism and stuff, and so I met him on this Buddhist website, and we got married, and I helped him raise his kid, and it was just very normal. I guess that was my trad wife kind of era or something, and it was but it was very peace, love, and rock and roll. He was very from Berkeley and stuff, and it was just so I just kind of learned how to just kind of be like that type of thing. And then we divorced, and after 5 years, yeah, because it wasn't working out. It was lacking. It just didn't have the depth I wanted. And then I met my husband Graham 11 years ago, and we've been married for 10 next month. And he was in recovery like me, so we had that same language and stuff. And he's just beautiful salt of the earth, and just loving and just really a man that is comfortable in his own sexuality and his manhood and stuff. So it's like neither one of those men had ever been with a trans woman before. And if I was non-op, I probably it probably would they probably wouldn't have dated me, right? Of course. But even Graham now, it's like he says, it's like God, maybe like after the years went by, he goes, maybe I would have now, type of thing. You know what I mean? Because the love happens and stuff. So it's just I found it so much. It's still crazy because you're dealing with men, right? Like it's like I really wish I could be a lesbian, but I'm just a Madonna poser lesbian type of thing, when I want it.
I always think that I'm like, gosh, if I really loved girls like that, I would be so much happier. But
I know. I
I,
know. But then, I've some of the, since I've been online and meeting all of these beautiful, gorgeous trans men and stuff, I'm thinking like, what,
well,
what's like, maybe that's the key. I don't know.
I've dated. I will say, I'll be very honest with this one. I have dated trans men and I've had great experiences, but a lot of the men that I attract to, a lot of them are open and that's for them, but that's like not really for me. Like I'm more of a monogamous girl.
Me too.
And I would like,
Me too. Me too. I can't. I'm just not. Yeah, I
he's
guess I'm
waiting. I
too.
always say he's brewing. The man of my dreams is brewing. He's brewing.
Yes. Yeah, he's still in the oven. He's cooking. Yeah.
Cooking. Well, I'm in this point in my life where I am, you know, I'm doing my career, I'm doing this, I'm, babysitting, I just got a dog, and so I'm like, you know what? Let them come in my life. Like I maybe need to stop looking and they just need to come to me. And that's how it will. What's something you would say? What's some advice that you would give to the younger generation right now that's like really going through it? They're having a really tough day, they want to transition, or they literally want to do a life transition of moving or something that's like a life-changing thing. What's something you would say to them?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Well, first off, I give suggestions. I don't give advice.
Okay.
But I suggest it's like what I did from drawing from my own life again. It's like I realized that it was all about finding the next safer place in my life. You know what I mean? Like, and the first the first safe place for me was running away from home and an abusive family home where I was, all that horrible stuff that happens to us that with people that are conservative and they don't like who you are type of thing, and you're internalizing all that stuff. So I, ran away to, to downtown Calgary with other runaway kids and stuff, and I was like it doesn't seem like it was safe, but it was safer for me. Like if I was gonna get abused, I was gonna pick the abuse. That's how horrible it was, right? And it's a horrible that we have to do that. And then the next safer thing was to go to Vancouver, to find my trans mom, and it's like and find out how to transition and all that stuff too. And Vancouver was a safer place, and Vancouver. That the West End is like the gay mecca of like Western Canada, and that was the next safer place. And then and then from there, it's like life took me to, I was searching, always searching, and then, life took me to recovery, and it's like in learning how to, navigate life clean and sober, and to be able to unpack all of my issues and stuff that I need to deal with. And that doesn't mean that you have to be there's a 12-step program for everybody, and it's all free type of thing. It's like it's just a great way to be able to, to do some inner work, take out the garbage, and yeah, leave what works type of thing, and just find that higher source, if you will, or that higher self that we all have within us type of thing. We got the wolf and the angel on the shoulders type of thing, and learn how to do and cultivate self-care modalities and stuff so that we can walk through this life with some grace and um and um and and find that work and stuff and be able to and have that self-esteem to take up that space and know that we belong here and all that. So yeah, and it's always just finding that next safer place. Like every marriage I was in, it was felt really safe and beautiful. And then I learned what I needed to learn. And then I try each time I tried to I left them a little bit more gracefully each time, type of thing. Some of them were really messy when I first started, but I started to learn, how to do that. And it's like, and now, being 64, and it's like, and when I met Graham, I knew he was my next safer place. And what he had to offer out here, it was a safe, quieter space away from the city. And so I let go of my place in Vancouver, and I never thought I'd be doing all this stuff online and whatnot. It's like, and it was like the universe said, okay, this is perfect. Yeah, it took about 5 years to decompress and move through a lot of I went through so much anger the first 5 years that I was here because I had never been able to release anger before. I was never safe enough to go through that stuff, and I was with somebody that I could let that stuff go, and I could make amends on the daily to him because he was caught in the crossfire and all that stuff. But to be able to purge all that stuff and then and then all of a sudden, I'm doing all this stuff online and I'm connecting and talking my stories. Now I'm writing, I got my first book deal, out of New York, and it's like it's gonna come out in 2027.
You have a book deal, and do you want to tell us about it really quickly?
Sure, I can do a bit. Yeah, it's the first of what I have is a three. I have a three. I have an idea for three of them, a definite idea for three of them, and it the first part is me from the beginning of my life to walking into recovery. So a trans woman experience surviving the 1970s and navigating that world and performance art and a drag and then performance art you know and you know s- the streets and escorting on the side, that duplicity life that I was living and all that stuff, and then finding recovery. And with my friend Tiggy, she was a native Canadian, gorgeous Métis girl that I grew up with, and she ended up killing herself, and I ended up that was a year after she drove me to recovery because yeah, we were finishing this album. We were going to be touring with that. She was my creative partner too, and I was wasting so much time. So I went to detox, and then she ended up killing herself. So it's a story about our fantastical lives and how I survived and she didn't. And then the second book is going to be about a trans woman navigating recovery.
I almost like can see like a Netflix series or like a HBO series or something. Like, I don't know.
Love that. Yeah. And I know the music. I always have it here where I write. And it's a CD that's her on it. That's her on that's her on it, and it's called Magdalene Ho, and that's the project that we're doing. And there's 9 songs on it, and that was never released. We never toured with it, and like we used to tour with stuff, and she won't leave me. She won't let me leave this mortal coil until I do something with this. So I'd like to make a transsexual rock opera with this, like for sure, like some and the story about Marty and Tiggy, like in 1980s doing shit. Like the songs are just freaking crazy. I just love them. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking for people to work with to make this into something after that first book. Hopefully I can find a bunch of people that can help me do that.
OG club kid. Like, fun fact, I was kind of in the club kid scene when I was in my younger 20s and then kind of figured out who I was after. But how was it being a club kid in the actual age of camp era?
I was on the West Coast. I was slaying the West Coast when that was happening, and we had our own stuff going on the West Coast, like through like Vancouver, Seattle, LA, all that. And it's like in Vancouver, we had our own kind of factory. It was called Underwater. We called it Underwater. It was on Water Street. It's in downtown Gastown. A lot of people, if they Vancouver, will know this. And it was an old wax museum, and a whole bunch of artists and stuff took over this basement. It was huge, and I had the center spot. They called it the penthouse, and it had these columns, these cement columns, because it was an old parkade too, right? Type of thing. It was crazy, and we had these huge paintings that Brain Eater. He's a famous punk rock guy, and with DOA and all those punk bands at the time, and he used to do these big, huge paintings that we'd have foam mattresses on. And so when the fire marshals would come, we'd like we'd slap the paintings on the wall, so they just looked like paintings type of thing. and and then we would go and invade the clubs and stuff. And at first, when we'd go to the clubs, we were always getting kicked out because we were just so weird and stuff. And it was like the punk rock was happening, and like going into gay clubs as a punk or as a freak type of thing. Like Tiggy and I would like just try to push the limit with our looks and stuff. And it's like at first they were just like the cisgender men, gay men were just not into it, right? And then so a lot of the really freaky queers were always like in these a lot of the straight clubs, like kind of like the 50 Studio 54. We had one, it was called the Love Affair, which was really huge in Vancouver. And so that was not, it was not a gay club, but it was not straight either. It was just like, everybody having fun type of thing. And there was just so much heterosexuality, but there was also queerness there too. And but the gay stuff was real, is still really kind of closed and closeted, and it slowly started to open up type of thing. But it was so the whole cisgender gay experience was really bizarre, like how they didn't, until it started getting popular, then they started letting it in, right? Like people don't realize like Madonna was not cool when we were growing up. It's like it was like she was just pop and all that. We didn't want to be that type of thing. Like it was like it was not like seeing all the kids with the bangles and the imitating Madonna, like being that first wave of her. Like we were just all gag. It was so like just it was so saccharine, sweet, weird. You know what I mean? Like it's like that. We were like listening to the Ramones, and we were Deborah Harry was just barely cool, like type of thing. You know what I mean? Because she did CBGBs and stuff, and then she went because if you went sellout and went mainstream, you weren't cool anymore, right? Now everything, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything that was I don't know. It was
Well,
just
I think it would be. I mean, like if I guess if like I always said if like I had a day in the '80s, I would dress like Beverly Troop Hills, like big and like curly red hair and like polka dots. Like I just love that movie. Like Beverly Troop Hills is like the best campy movie ever. And like that was when I was little. So like I remember like watching it religiously, being like, Mom, I need to watch this. I am her. Fabulous. Oh my gosh.
aw, honey, that was fun.
Much for coming on.
My pleasure, sweetie.
And that was another episode of I Have No Idea What I'm Doing.